last time I told you to be happy. And now we're going to talk about karma. I'm glad you're in a good mood. Now, thing is, this is a rather maybe dry subject, technical subject, because it's a very complex thing, this law of cause and effect. And I want to give you as much as possible practical points that the Master has given us so that we can be safe and avoid the infinite variety of pitfalls. Now, I want to give first overall, just very quickly, overall picture. And I think this may be a repetition of what Brother Bhaktivinoda already said yesterday. When God started to create this universe, He divided Himself into three universal aspects. The one is, it is called in Sanskrit, Sat, that is God the Father, cosmic consciousness beyond creation, and Tat, or Kutastha Chaitanya, or the Christ consciousness, which is God's consciousness, pure consciousness in all creation. And then the third aspect, that is the Om. That is the cosmic vibration. That is, the Hindus call it also Shakti, power. That's the Divine Mother. Divine Mother which produces this whole creation. It is the creative principle in creation. It structures the whole creation, and that's the whole thing. Divine Mother taking care of her house, first creating it and then taking care of her housework. Now this force is essentially a dual force, because there cannot be a single force in a universe, because it has to be contrast, it has to be duality, otherwise no manifestation is possible. Just as you cannot have a picture which is consisting only of one color, there has to be contrast. Now, the law of karma, cause and effect, is based on this principle of duality. And it is not just something to punish us. I think many people have a wrong concept. It governs all actions in a universe. All actions, all movements, all thoughts in a whole universe. And God simply had to create this law in order to have harmony, have balance in His whole creation. Without that, the whole thing would fall apart. Which wouldn't be a bad idea. Huh? But anyway, He made it so. And because it governs all actions throughout the universe, it is called also in India Sahaja karma, nature's karma. And so that law rules, governs the motion of the stars, motions of the planets. It governs all evolution of life, from mineral to plant, through the lower, ever higher forms of animal life. This is all done by this Sahaja karma, nature's karma. In man, it governs the involuntary functions, such as digestion, circulation, and so on. Now, everything is fine up to that point, because the lower creatures, they have no free will, they have no reason, therefore that evolution goes at a steady pace, without interruptions, without detours, and so on, without setbacks. Now, when it comes to man, Man is a special creation of God, and He has given man free choice, has given man the power to reason, and because of this we are setting into motion, we are directly operating through our actions and our thoughts this law of karma. Of course, it is the same law, but it is called then in India jiva karma, or man's human karma. And the Master says in the lessons that you have the law of karma is scientific, being rooted in the law of causation. It has also philosophic, moral, and practical aspects. And therefore it is important that we know the principles of this law first, to understand it, and thus to be freed from its clutches, because understanding, wisdom, knowledge is freedom. Second, to be able to act rightly, free of external influences and desires, and thus to be able consciously and independently to create good karma through the use of right judgment. And third, to understand the various influences that may be employed to modify the effects of already acquired bad karma. And most of us have still quite a bit of that left. And so this is also a very important aspect, so that we know how we can minimize or completely eliminate karma before it starts to manifest. Minimize the consequences of past errors and to avoid future mistakes. Now, this law is a just law. You see there pictures of the goddess of justice, which is blindfolded. It means that law is not a respecter of persons, meaning if a person puts his hand into a fire, that hand, according to the law of cause and effect, that hand is going to be burned. Regardless whether that person is rich or poor, accomplished or not, ignorant or wise or whatever, whether he is putting that hand into that fire by accident or on purpose. The law works, that hand is going to be burned. And so the Master said it is a just law. God did not create some human beings with defective brains and other ones with healthy brains, just for variety. Now, he said all men were created as sons of God, made in his image, with free choice and equal powers of accomplishment. Equal powers of accomplishment. By misusing his God-given reason and willpower, man lost his original perfection and has fallen under the control of nature's law of cause and effect of action, thus limiting his life. Now, when we talk about past actions, I think most of you understand that this is not only a reference to actions or thoughts in this life, but also in past incarnations. All the actions, all the thoughts of this life are registered in the subconscious. Even though much of it we have forgotten, the divine computer doesn't make any mistakes and doesn't forget, unfortunately. So everything is recorded in our subconscious, and all the actions of all the past incarnations are stored up in the subconscious mind. So everything is there waiting for just the right circumstances and just the right conditions to manifest. And so there is no such a thing as fate, as many people think. There is no such a thing as fate. Or if we talk about fate, then it is simply our free choice, which we used in the past. And unfortunately it is so that not always the result of an action does not come immediately. Not always. Many times it waits and we forget. And then later on, all of a sudden, that reaction comes. And we are stunned. We think, why does this happen to me? And we think there is an outside force, fate. Not so. The Master said, if you could see the whole picture, you would see, a Master can see, there is to every action or to every happening, there is a cause far back, or maybe not so far back. And unfortunately, I think those reactions come sometimes very late, so that we do not see the connection, because if we did see that, I think we would smarten up and we would be a little more careful, isn't it? There is no such thing as fate. You heard about the story just recently of a famous movie actress who died tragically. And one of her friends said, this is the proof that there is no God, otherwise he wouldn't have allowed such a thing to happen. Wow. Everything that happens to us, good or bad. Now, this is not only bad karma, there's lots of good karma also. Everything that happens to us, we have created it in the past. There is another point, and that is the conflict between our free will and bad karma. As I said before, quoting the Master, that God has created all men with the same powers of accomplishment. But we have, through going against that law of cause and effect, as a result we have diminished and limited that free will. And some people do not have very much because they have all piled up a lot of karma, bad karma. Now, we should not look at bad karma just as a form of punishment. This is a negative attitude. In the contrary, we should look at it as a challenge to bring forth that greater determination and willpower to undo, to overcome adversity and obstacles. And it is rightly said that some obstacles, adversities, cause some men to break and some men to break records. And when you look at histories of the various saints, you see very often it is just because of severe obstacles, great suffering, that they changed, that brought them out of a rut of an ordinary worldly material existence. And they used that determination and turned to God and became saints. Some of them, like Saint Teresa of Avila, she was a very spiritual girl, as a child. But as she grew up, she forgot God, all spiritual things, and started to have a worldly life. Then suffering came, and that shook her up, and she turned towards God and became one of the towering saints of Christianity. Another one, Saint Francis, possibly the greatest of the Christian saints, same thing, and many others. So never think in terms of punishment or dwell on the limitations. And this very often happens, particularly in the beginning, when a person begins to practice yoga, practice to meditate, and he finds, I'm so restless, I have such terrible habits, and my body doesn't want to sit still, my mind goes a million miles an hour. I am not meant for this. Nonsense. It simply means, why are we restless? Because we have engaged in activities which produce restlessness. And so the karma is there. But if a person keeps on practicing, then through right actions, right thinking, right attitudes, that restlessness producing karma is overcome. Same thing with the life force. The life force automatically usually goes out and down, outward, into the wrong channels. Why? Because we have engaged in wrong activities, too much in materialistic activities. And now, simply through practicing of the techniques, we are reversing, we are changing the patterns of our thoughts, changing the patterns of the flow of life force. And then after a while, gradually it becomes very simple, very easy, because that life force has been accustomed to flow inward more and upward into the higher chakras, where the divine consciousness is. Now, I want to go into different groupings of karma, and you will